Hello and welcome to This Is MediaCity. I'm Stephen Chapman and today we're joined by Becky Want, the presenter of The Late Show on BBC Radio. We'll be talking a lot about that. We'll also be talking about her time on Piccadilly Radio and also on Granada Television. And if you do take one thing away from today, please don't necessarily try and get the job the way she did. Becky Want, thanks for getting out of bed early to join us today. Your show last night, it finishes at 1 o'clock in the morning, doesn't it?
It does. 10 o'clock at night till 1 o'clock in the morning, yes.
So we should have just put some sleeping bag on that couch over there, shouldn't we?
I'd have got more sleep, yeah. No, it's fine. I'm used to not having any sleep. It's fine.
Before we talk about The Late Show, BBC Radio, all the things you've done in the past, I've seen pictures of you unveiling plaques outside the old Piccadilly radio place. Before we talk about any of that, I think it's best to try and get the adrenaline running by giving you random questions I'm going to throw in your...
tell me about this.
Well, if I'd told you about it, you might have tried to prepare. For the BBC press office watching, don't worry, there's nothing controversial in here as far as we know.
Ah, okay. The importance of working in the north.
Well, this is your career, isn't it? Up in the north, pretty much.
Yeah. It has always been. I am Manchester born and bred, always been proud to work in radio and television in the north. Frankly astounded that I'm still doing it. And yes, so from being 23 when I joined Piccadilly Radio, to now, when I'm most certainly not 23, I mean, decades and decades later, I've always worked Piccadilly Radio, other radio stations, Granada Television for a long time, then a satellite Granada station called Granada Breeze, so all Manchester, and then finally the BBC. I mean, the BBC, I never know, but it was probably about 20 years ago now that I went to the BBC. Or came to the BBC, and I remember I'd never worked for the BBC. I'd always worked for commercial, always. And I remember, so I must have been about 40, and I remember coming in to a guy, Steve Taylor, who was the manager, and I'd lost my job. I'd been made redundant. A whole channel had gone to the wall, kind of overnight.
Granada Breeze,
yeah, that was absolutely shocking. God, I'm digressing already. I can't believe it. So that was shocking. All my eggs were in that basket. That taught me a lesson. So I was out of work, and I was out of work for quite a long time, quite a few months. And I was writing to people and going to see people and having chats with people, London, all over the place, telly and radio, not getting anywhere. And then I didn't even send a CV. I just sent an email to Radio Manchester and said, anything. And he said, come in for a chat. I'm like, oh, here we go, another chat. Anyway, he said, yeah, we've got a Saturday morning programme. Do you want to do it? And I'll let you do some cover for, God bless her, Diane Oxbury. So I'm like, finally, yes, I've got some work. Because I hated being out of work. I couldn't bear it. And then 2 years ago, just 2 years ago, suddenly, everything changes at BBC Radio Manchester, which is where I was, or BBC Local Radio, and I get a phone call saying, we'd like you to do the new Late Show, which is a network
Which
show.
is basically, of course, it's coming from Manchester, well, Media City, Greater Manchester, and then going out, is it 39 local radio stations?
Yeah, so it's all England and the Channel Islands as well. I always throw the Channel Islands in because I reckon that actually one of these days they might let me go and do an outside broadcast in Jersey or Guernsey or somewhere like that. So I'm like, so for the first time in my career, I mean, I'd done the very odd national TV programme, but the very odd. For the first time in my career at 60, I am actually asked to go on the network. And I was staggered, I was thrilled, and I was really, really pleased that actually you're never too old. Who'd have thought it? At my age, I'd have got that. And so that's... So for the first time 2 years ago, I went national.
But that was probably quite a difficult time as well, though, wasn't it? Because there was a stage that obviously the BBC are struggling with money, the licence fee and all the rest of it, and they're trying to save money.
Do you think?
Have you noticed? But one of those things was the fact that originally they would have had presenters at each of those stations.
Yeah, nearly all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So brilliant news for you, but obviously at the BBC there was also that kind of, you must have had mixed feelings kind of taking that job on, because it meant other people weren't doing that job anymore.
To say the least, yeah, absolutely. It was a very strange time. I'm a presenter, as I've just said to you. I've had times being out of work, not having any work, and there is absolutely nothing worse. And there was a lot of opposition to this. But at the end of the day, I thought, well, and I understood the opposition, I really did. But I thought, and I've spoken to a number now of presenters who did the Late Show and who were taken off. And I've said to them, honestly, if you'd been offered it, would you have turned it down in solidarity, or would you have taken it? And they, to their credit, said, no, we don't blame you. We really don't blame you. We blame the powers that be, the BBC, whatever, but we don't blame you. So all the Late Show presenters, a lot of whom have gone on to do other things within the BBC, I must say, but all of the ones that I've spoken to have said that to me, which made me feel better. However, the audience were a bit less forgiving.
Yeah, because the thing about BBC local radio, in fact, commercial local radio as well, is that you want to hear about your place. And you also like voices that sound like yours as well, don't you?
But also, you absolutely build a relationship with your presenters. They become, especially I have to say at that time of night, and I didn't quite realise that until I took it on, but they become your friend, your companion, your lifeline a lot of the time. They become so much more than just a voice on a national radio station. And so there was quite a lot of opposition to me. And I mean, who are you going to rail against? You're going to rail against this new strange voice that's come on, that you know nothing about, who knows nothing about. It's all very negative, isn't it, so far? Who knows nothing about where you come from. And I knew that I was very well prepared for that to happen. And at the very beginning, so we all do as presenters, I think, but I look up every WhatsApp message and every text and every email that comes in to the Late Show. I have them on the screen in front of me. And at the that must
be really difficult when you know that all that's coming in. Talk about a motivating factor as you're presenting away.
Yeah, I know. There was that. And my boss said to me at the very beginning, let's switch those off for the first, he said, I'd say first month. Don't look at them. So I went, okay, well, you know better than me. So I didn't look at them for 2 days. I didn't look at them, and I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear not knowing what was coming in. I had to know. So I told him, I said, I'm going to switch the text. And he said, oh, you sure that's a good idea? I said, yeah, I'll be fine. That makes
it worse if he's asking you again.
I know. I said, no. I said, I'll be fine. I can take it. I needed to understand what the feelings were of the audience and to sort of get my head around it, and not to reply to them. I mean, not to have any kind of on-air arguments at all. And so I did. I turned them on, and the ones that I absolutely held on to were the ones that were lovely and positive. And there were some, obviously the people listening in Manchester obviously were there, thank goodness. But then they started to trickle in and say, I didn't agree with this. I don't agree with this. I'll give you a chance. I've given you a chance. I'm quite like it. I wasn't, So it gradually became more positive. And we've just literally had 2 years now, the 2-year anniversary of the show starting at the beginning of October. And I had so many lovely messages saying that to me, saying, we really weren't sure about this, but actually, and this is the bit I love, you've created a late night family. So
because one of your things when you start the show is you become part of the family, don't you? If you message in.
Yes. Yes, you do. Because I think what we as a team, and I have got a big team and an amazing team, really, really great. I think what we've tried to do is we've tried to engender this feeling of a gathering, that time of night when you all kind of get together, you know, around the tea table or whatever it is, and you all have a bit of a chat. It's quite old-fashioned, this, you know, you put your phone down and you have a bit of a chat about, you know, oh, you never guess what, you know, I went shopping today. Or it doesn't have to be anything sort of earth-shattering. I went shopping today, or, oh, do you know who I saw? Or, oh, I had my hair done, or whatever it is. And that's the feeling we were hoping to engender. And it's sort of become that, I think. It's grown into that. And there are regulars. And so we have a lot of what I call late night legends who come in every night. I mean, one is she's been there from the word go, and she wasn't sure at all. She said, oh, I'll give it a whirl. Ruthie from Dover is every single night. She's actually from Ireland. She's got a strong Irish accent. She lives in Dover. She goes for a walk every day, looks at the White Cliffs, you know, she goes for coffee, and she's funny and she's feisty and she's fabulous, and she'll tell you if she doesn't like something and she'll tell you if she does, but she absolutely engages with the programme. And, you know, and she's a regular, and she pops up. She either sends a voice note or, you know, loads and loads of WhatsApp messages or whatever, or emails or whatever it is. So we've got her. And another one that's actually fairly recent, who's become part of the family in the last, I'd say, 4 months, is Claire, the carer in Suffolk. And she works, and she works so hard, and she works quite often, gets up in, see, I know all about her, gets up in the morning, goes and looks after her clients, and then at night she goes and puts them to bed. So she will always send a WhatsApp message at any time between 11 and midnight saying, I've finished for the night. And it is like Peter Kay's equivalent of give your mum 3 rings. It's like that, you know. My mum used to say it, you know, make sure you give me 2 rings or 3 rings when you get home. And that's what she does. And now we have a whole group of people who wait to hear that Claire the carer is finished for the night and she's okay and she's driven home. Last night it was through the snow. And it's so lovely to get, and the later it gets at night, the kind of closer we all become. And, you know, everybody's looking out for everybody else. And these people haven't met each other, but they are invested in them. And I've said this, I've said it on air, and I've said it to whoever wants to listen. This is, and I've done this for decades, this is the loveliest, kindest audience I have ever had. They are absolutely lovely. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, at 5 to 1, I get all these messages through saying, drive carefully, Becky. It's like my mum, you know, drive carefully, Becky, be careful, you know, there's a moon that will kind of shine and guide you home, or watch out for snow, and people send me weather forecasts local, you know, really,
Do you
really
have to
lovely.
WhatsApp the presenter following you to say it with your 3 rings for you? For the
Yeah, I'll give you 3 rings when I get home. So it's, you know, let's be honest, sometimes when the weather's inclement and it's pouring with rain and I'm leaving the house at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night and it's dark and, you know, it's cold, yes, I would be lying to you if I didn't say, I sometimes think, oh, it'd be nice just to kind of close the curtains and, you know, snuggle down. But I get in the car and I go down and I come into the studio, which is, it's all I've ever known. The studio is what I know. I do know, I hope I know what I'm doing when I'm in the studio. And it feels just very comfortable, a very comfortable place for me. And then I open the microphone at 10 o'clock. You never know what you're going to get. And there've been times when I've been feeling a bit ropey, you know, I've got a bit of a cold or whatever. And I'll end up at 1 o'clock just feeling so much better, energized by these lovely people or funny people or whatever it is. So yeah, it's been a lovely show to do. How
difficult a show is it? Because you've got 2 aspects here from you and your production team, in that it's an interesting time because there'll be those trying to get to sleep and there'll be those going to work and those still working.
Yeah.
But also you've got the other aspect of this is a national show, but it's not really seen as a national show, I don't imagine, by the listeners because they still see it as their local radio station.
Yeah.
So all of those different things coming together, how difficult was it to create a show which taught to such a potentially diverse audience at different times? Because you don't want to get the ones that wanting to go to sleep really kind of full of energy before they drop off, and vice versa, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my producer, senior producer, all my producers are brilliant, really great. We've got a fantastic team who work very hard. But my senior producer I've known him for years and years, and it was a dream when he said that he applied for the job and he got the job. I was so pleased. But he thinks long and hard, just takes his time to work out what the best thing to do is, what will appeal, to the audience, and where to place different features. So we do 10 o'clock, just the first thing that we do, 10 past 10, is a kind of, I like to say it's an ordinary person with an extraordinary story. It's very often...
You had like a prison officer last night, didn't you, I think?
Yeah, I had a former prison officer who was fairly controversial about what was wrong. And we don't shy away from that at all. And we don't... He was controversial about what was wrong in the prison system, and we had a response from the prison service, of course. So we don't shy away from tough stories, and there are a lot of tough stories that we cover, On the other hand, we can do, because it's late at night, you have, we can do stories about sexual matters, should we choose to, and we have chosen to. So, yeah. One that also elicited a huge response was this dominatrix who she was so funny. She sounded like a character out of a Jilly Cooper novel. She sounded very, very jolly opposite, and she spoke like that, and and full of fun and having a real laugh at what she did. And she kind of finished the whole interview. I mean, she did it was hilarious actually. Just what she was talking about, which I won't go into here, what she was talking about versus how she sounded, but very, very amusing. And she finished with a flourish talking about what one of her clients liked her to do with custard. So, but that actually we had after that a hilarious 15-20 minutes with just a lot of comments about custard and what type of custard. And so yes, that's the first interview we do at 10 o'clock, and so it can be about anything at all, really. Again, ordinary people, extraordinary stories. Do
you feel that sometimes you have to protect your audience a bit? So I'm thinking like with those major breaking stories, I think like Southport, I don't think you're on air during the Aherne attack, but things that are happening right there, but at the same time they've not necessarily tuned in to get the full breaking news story, which obviously 5 Live or Radio 4 or something like that. Is there an element where you have to kind of balance that a bit?
Yes. I mean, Southport actually is a very good example of that, because we're not a news programme, but we can be. I've had a background in news as well as everything else, so we can do that. And we talked about Southport, of course we did, and we decided in the end that the best thing to do, and this is sort of what we've done since, when there's a story of that, thank God not often, but a story of that magnitude, we haven't shied away from it. So I said something like, this has happened, absolutely tragic, dreadful, we're punch drunk after this awful news, and if you want to talk about it, please do. If you want to send a message, if you feel like you want to talk about it off air, then we're here for you. So we gave our lovely listeners the chance to do whatever they wanted to do with that story. You know, if you want to send me an email, but you don't want me to read it out, then that might do you some good. Please do it. And actually that did happen. Please don't read this out. You know, this is not for broadcast, but I just have to say how I feel. Some people, you know, wanted us to read it out. I remember one woman who was from Liverpool who sent a WhatsApp message saying, I love the programme, but I didn't know whether to tune in or not tonight because I wasn't in the mood, and I didn't know if you'd mention it, and I felt like you should, and thank you. I made the right decision. I did join you, and you know, thank you for giving us that platform. So we do that and have done that. Yeah.
I'm going to go back because actually the first question was the importance of working in the north, but we kind of went off, didn't we? This is why I always write a running order, and then I always forget about the running order after we've done the icebreaker questions, which is entirely the way it should be. But it is, I imagine, a very complicated thing to kind of. I remember working at Granada and we had to work out how many stories were from Manchester and how many were from Liverpool and Lancashire and stuff like that. I can only imagine the maps that you've got out in your office to make sure you're covering it all, and also making sure you're not concentrating too much on too many. To say Manchester, for example. Yeah, we don't do that. You know, I mean, we don't concentrate on Manchester. We're all over the place, and we do. And again, sometimes these things happen just naturally, really. They just come. I mean, that's the best kind of radio, isn't it? Very authentic radio. So we were like, how can we represent all these different places? What can we do while still making it have a nice, comforting feel? And my producer just said one day, why don't you just call it clocking on? It's like clocking on for the late shift, because if you're at home, then, you know, you're just saying it's me, I'm here, but clocking on has got work connotations as well. So, you know, you're clocking on to a factory or whatever it is for the night shift. And that was it. And it's those two words, clocking on, and that's the start of the programme. Every night, clocking on. And loads of people just clock on and say, oh, you know, it's Eileen from Cornwall, or it's Matt from Newcastle. They might do a line on something that's happened that day. Quite often we do food, so that I'm clocking on with a hot chocolate. Kev from actually Horton Green, he's from Manchester, clocks on with the red wine. Lynn from Warrington, she's on the white wine. If it's a Wednesday, white wine Wednesday. And then this has also happened by osmosis, really, that there's something about working at night that you need a bit of a sugar fix at about sort of, 10, 11 o'clock. This is my excuse anyway. And so I've rediscovered a love, I've always liked them, but I've rediscovered a love of biscuits. And I'm a great lover of white chocolate. And I'm not on my own, because I thought that was quite unusual, that people had quite sophisticated tastes and like dark chocolate. I hate dark chocolate, but white chocolate's my thing. So I just one day mentioned, white chocolate. Well, inundated with people who love white chocolate, and then loads of suggestions as to where you can get fantastic white chocolate biscuits, or, at Easter, white chocolate eggs, or white chocolate Ferrero Rocher chocolates, or whatever. And that's become one of our themes. It's all about white chocolate, because there are many of us. It's a shame you don't work in a commercial, because the commercial radio would have been inundated with white chocolate goodies. Well, I have to tell you, I'm probably not supposed to tell you this, but I do, my lovely listeners, actually. Do you have to declare them? Well, I think not. But obviously, if I did have to, I would. But going back to the commercial, though, because it's only a few days ago, I think you were pictured outside Piccadilly Hotel in, Piccadilly Gardens. Start of your career, was it at Piccadilly Radio? The start of my career, actually, was at Signal Radio, which is in the Midlands, in Stoke-on-Trent. Yeah. So that's where I actually started, but I didn't start. I was desperate to. I'd done some hospital radio. I'd done a degree in drama at Bristol University, but I'd done a subsidiary TV course which included radio, and I was desperate to do TV and radio. Didn't want to be an actress. Thought I did when I went to university to read
drama at Bristol, but after about 2 weeks, I realised that acting wasn't for me. Then my mother actually, and I have to say this was great advice, said just do a 4-week typing and shorthand course at a place called, some people will remember this, Sight and Sound in Manchester. So I went on that course for 4 weeks. I'd never mastered shorthand, but I can type and I can touch type.
Oh, nice.
I know, and everybody's amazed because I can literally not look to this day. That was the best thing that I'd done, because then I got a job as a secretary to the programme controller at a brand new radio station, Signal Radio in Stoke-on-Trent. But I was a secretary, but I was in.
Yes.
And then they must have had a gap on a Sunday afternoon between 3 and 4, and they just didn't know what to do with it. So they said, you can do this hour. I mean,
can you imagine that nowadays?
You could, no. You're a secretary. I don't even know if they paid me to do it, to be honest with you. But they also let me do 2 little 5-minute pieces about the history of Stoke-on-Trent into the breakfast show, which was like key, because I was on the breakfast show only for 5 minutes. And then I did this Sunday afternoon programme for an hour. And that was the start. And from there, I always wanted to get back to Manchester, always. And I started to apply to Piccadilly Radio, and which was enormous.
I was going to say, what was that like back in the day? Because we've got Mike Sweeney, you know very well from back in the day.
Well. Can't shake him off.
Mark Radcliffe.
Yeah,
there's some massive
names. Timmy Mallet, Chris Evans.
Yeah, Andy
Crane
was there as well. Yeah.
Oh yes, it was absolutely full of. It was chock-a-block with huge talent, and I managed to get a show there. I mean, also there was one woman on Piccadilly Radio, just one, called Susie Mathis, and she was older than me, and it was all men. It was all men. Women didn't. It's very unusual for women to be in broadcasting, and I think that went in my favour, because the bosses at the time, one of whom I am to this day really, really friendly with, but the bosses at the time, they did things that were different. Mike Sweeney's a good example. He was a van driver and was in a band, and they plucked him. He'd never done broadcasting.
Whatever happened to him?
I've no idea. Dave Ward, he was very famous in the Piccadilly days, was a hairdresser. So there were people from all walks of life who, the bosses there at Piccadilly, Colin Walters and Simon Cole, they saw something in them, and they must have seen something in me, or maybe it was because I was young and I was female, but they gave me a chance and they let me do 2 night beats. That's all I got, 2 night beats, 2 till 6 in the morning on a Saturday and a Sunday through the night. And they said, we'll try you out on these 2. So I went back to Signal Radio in Stoke-on-Trent, where I was the secretary, and I said, they've offered me these 2 shows, and they said, well, you can't do them. You work for us. You can't go and do that. And so I had to make the decision to jump, leave. Well, I could have stayed, or so I thought, well, I'm going to jack in. I've got to give it a whirl. So I did. I did the 2 night beats. So nervous. So nervous.
Because it was a massive audience as well, Piccadilly, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it was huge. Did both of them, and they liked, obviously, what I did. And Simon Cole, programme controller, said, right, we want you to do this new show that we've got, the early breakfast show. And that's 5 till 7 in the morning. And you will also do traffic and travel on the breakfast show. So, wow.
Yeah.
I'd got this early breakfast show. That was amazing, actually. There were real similarities between that and the late show that I do now, as far as the audience is concerned, because they were very loyal. They were regulars. They were very loyal. They were waiting for you. They engaged and they concentrated, really. They listened, really listened. And it's just the same now on the late show. But then I was on the breakfast show doing traffic and travel, and that was big. That was really, really big to be part of that team. was enormous.
And is that what brought you towards television?
Well, I did that, and then Susie Mathis left, and I got her lunchtime show. So then again, having done bits on the breakfast show, I then got my own show. And I think I was there for 5 years, 5 very, very happy years at Piccadilly. I mean, it was extraordinary in Manchester. It was huge. It was the biggest mixed news and entertainment show outside Capital. And we were...
You got to look at the pictures of Piccadilly Gardens back in the day, because there was literally a massive Piccadilly. It was not subtle, was it? Piccadilly
there were
Radio.
huge photographs of each of the DJs, enormous, like the whole of that wall, and we each had one. And I can remember the photograph now. I was wearing a pink shirt. I remember having it taken, and I remember standing over by the Britannia Hotel and watching my photograph be put up in this huge, great big window outside Piccadilly Radio. And honestly, I was so happy. I was so thrilled. I thought I'd made it. So yeah, and we could go anywhere, We were welcomed into any club, VIPs areas. I mean, honestly, we didn't realise it at the time. We just kind of did it. But then we were doing all this kind of clubbing and going out, and then getting up. I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to go and do the early breakfast show. And there were times when I kind of went straight there and carried on. But happy times, amazing times to be in the media, really great.
And then you moved on to Granada Television towards that when it was at Key Street. I joined when it was at Key Street as well, but I think you were there a little bit before me. But it's that was also an interesting time at Granada because they had the regional television there, and they had I know you had Breeze there, but it was again kind of had that feeling there that you could do whatever you wanted in a way. Yeah,
that was amazing. I mean, this is amazing when I look back at what's happened. So I'd done 5 years at Piccadilly, and then they split. So Key 103 was launched. I was the first voice actually on Key 103. Key 103 was launched, and there was Piccadilly kind of Gold in effect.
Yeah, it's kind of older.
11:52. Yeah. So I was on Key, and that was a music station, or more a music station, and less interviews. And so it was. I mean, I loved it, but it was less my thing. And it felt like that kind of golden age had slightly dissipated, so it was slightly diluted. I think. I don't get me wrong. I was really happy. Oh, and then the management changed as well.
And it moved house. It moved to the docks, Custard.
But I was actually still at Piccadilly at the time, at the Piccadilly Gardens. So I started to think about telly and Granada, obviously, and it was always a bit of a dream to work at Granada. So I started to just write. There were no emails, obviously, in the olden days. I started to kind of write, and someone said to me, why don't you just write a letter and then phone up every Friday. Friday's a good day to phone up because everyone's in a good mood. So I found who the head of regional programmes was, a guy, God bless him, he's just died, but Stuart Preble. He was another amazing person in my career. Like Simon Cole before him at Piccadilly, Stuart Preble, well, it took him a long time to really believe in me. It took him 6 months of me phoning him.
6 months of you phoning every Friday?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Literally. I know there's a tiny little booth at Piccadilly Radio that was a soundproof booth, and I used to go in that booth and phone up and phone. And the thing that encouraged me was most of the time, I talked to his secretary, who I got to know really well, Marion.
I'm not surprised, 6 months every catch-up. Oh, she phoned yet?
Yeah, I know. And most of the time, he took my call, not every Friday. Yeah. Mostly he did. And he's like, I said, have you got anything for me yet? I had been I'd met him, I'd gone in for a chat, and he'd said there's nothing at the moment. So I just carried on. I just phoned him every Friday. And in the end, after 6 months, he said, come in and see me on whatever, next week. So I thought, oh, maybe this is it. So I went to see him, and he said, right, you'll be pleased to know we've got something for you. I'm like, amazing. And what is it? He said, it's a holiday programme. We're starting a regional holiday programme on Granada, and I want you to present it. I want you to start as soon as you can. You know, you need to resign from Piccadilly. Start as soon as you can, and you know, we'll give you a full-time job. You know, staff job at Granada. And you can do other things as well, but that's your first job. So I'm like, from nothing to
everything.
The holiday programme of all programmes, you know, it's the dream, isn't it? The holiday programme. It's called Traveller's Check. That's what it was called. And so I went to Piccadilly and I resigned, and they were very gracious, and they understood. In fact, I got a lovely handwritten letter saying sort of good luck, which I've kept, which is very nice. And so I joined Granada on a Friday, and on a Monday...
That seems about suitable that you should have joined on a Friday.
Yes, absolutely. And on a Monday, I was on a plane to what was then Yugoslavia. So I was on a plane, first filming ever. I'd never done any television.
So this was the first time presenting on camera and everything?
Yeah. I was in Yugoslavia with a load of crew I'd never met before. No idea what I was doing at all. I mean, it's all well and good saying you can do it, isn't it? Until you have to do it. This was just before the war broke out in Yugoslavia, just before it became. So I did this whole filming, a week in Yugoslavia, me and this team, and it was never shown because that Yugoslavia was no longer.
Wow.
So so there we go. That was my first experience. And then after that, I came back and I went to Tunisia. That was my next. And then I went to Mallorca, and then I was like bouncing. It was amazing. I was coming back for 2 days. I remember my mum coming around and helping me wash my clothes and iron them so that I could put them back in the suitcase and go on to another place. I went to the Bahamas. Flew first class back from New York. We didn't pay for it. We were bumped up. We were always being bumped up, upgraded. I mean, those were amazing times. And then I did really every regional programme on Granada. I did health and fitness programme with Ted Robbins. I did an arts and entertainment programme which was live with Eamon O'Neill, which was fantastic. On a Thursday night called What's New, where they transformed a studio at Granada into a kind of a bar stroke club. So there were tables and chairs and booze, and we had a stage. And so we just used to invite all our mates, all our friends and family to come down. Can you imagine it now? Get free booze. I think I'm right in saying the budget was 20 grand an episode.
Wow. Okay, back in the day though.
Back in the day that was a fortune. And I had a clothing allowance, and but we had people like Carolina Aherne doing a comedy.
Who also started out as a secretary in the media.
Yes, at BBC.
Yeah,
actually. John Thompson, Steve Coogan, so all that band, Henry Normal, they all came to What's New. We had big start, we had like Wet, Wet, Wet singing live for us. We had James, we had, memorably, Les Dawson. We got a piano in for him, playing the piano, I know, as only he could. We had Barbara Windsor doing film reviews for us. I mean, it was fantastic. And I don't know how long we did that show for, but it ran for quite a long time. My favourite one was what we called it What's New Year. So we did it on New Year's Eve, going into New Year's Day, live.
Oh, live as well?
Live, yeah. And Eamon and myself. and we had all our pals in. So it was like one fantastic New Year's Eve party. The host, i.e. me and him, being completely sober until afterwards. We didn't touch a drink, of course not. But everyone else, not so much. Oh my goodness me, it was chaos by the time we'd finished, but it was brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
And that kind of brings us back to where we started, which was when, obviously, I don't want to go back into the breeze and everything else because there was redundancy, and then you started a scratch, and then you got the job at the BBC.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of a heck of a career that you've had, though, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got this relationship with the University of Salford as well, and they're all encouraged to try and work out how to get careers in the media. Are you suggesting that they really should write a letter in and frustrate and annoy someone every Friday for 6 months until they get a job? Is that the takeaway advice that people should have from the show?
I mean, it depends, and it's like you've got to read the room, haven't you? I think it was the key point that he mostly took my calls on a Friday afternoon that I knew encouraged me. I mean, there have been many, many times when that hasn't worked, that approach. That is my general approach, kind of mither them to death until they kind of just go, oh, all right, we'll give you a job. But I mean, you know, sometimes it will work to an extent and then nothing comes back, and then you can't push it. You just annoy people by doing that. But I mean, perseverance has always, I have to say, worked for me. You know, it is the key as far as I'm concerned. Hard work, I mean, you know, it's hard work. It's tough. Talking about doing different shifts and doing different hours, and certainly I would say to anyone who wants a job in the media, don't expect that it's 9 to 5. You know, be prepared to work weekends, to work nights, to work early mornings, all those things. And be nice to work with, be amenable, be pleasant, be helpful. I mean, I tell myself still to this day all the same things, you know, be helpful, be amenable, be patient. I think it's a two-way street.
Learn from everyone. Everyone there you can learn from.
Yeah.
I think it's a good one as well. I'm guilty of it myself as we kind of wrap up because you need your sleep, for goodness sake, don't you? But
I'm not going to sleep at this time. When I'm up, I'm up.
I'm guilty of myself in the fact that we kind of talk about the good old days, and when people are watching and listening to these things, oh, I wish it was like that nowadays. How happy are you now? Because you've got a brilliant show now, you seem really relaxed and you feel like you've got the audience there now. Is this kind of your kind of nice place to be now?
Oh, that's like asking me, have I found my forever home?
Well, it is a little bit in a way that you've done all these amazing things over your career, and you've kind of landed in this, your first, I think, network show, even though it's not necessarily classed as a network show. Yeah. Is this kind of where it's at now?
Are you asking me if I want to retire?
No, I'm not asking you if you want to retire. I'm asking you how much you enjoy your new show, and if it's the thing that is kind of you now.
Yeah. Well, it is absolutely me for now, but I do have this. I have this massive fear about forever homes. You know how people say, this is my forever home? I will never say that, ever, 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 because it feels like there's nowhere left to go. And I think the older I get, the more scared I become of just going, right, that's me now, I'm satisfied. I can't ever imagine retiring. I cannot ever imagine retiring, that is for sure. I love this show. I absolutely love this show. I can't envisage not doing it. I feel like I'm tempting fate, but you know,
I suppose
I would do it as long as they'll have me.
I was going to say, you work Mondays to Thursdays, don't you? So what I'm trying to find out, and it's basically for any executives watching this, is on Friday afternoon, are they safe? You're not phoning people up now thinking, right, where's my next place going to be for the next 6 months?
Well, you see, if I work 4 nights, that gives me 5 days, doesn't it?
Oh, right,
that I can work. So I never close my eyes to other work, extra work, on top of what I do. I've just done this year a load of films for Morning Live.
Yeah.
So, they never say never. I'm always open to offers, but I won't mither anybody on a Friday afternoon.
Fabulous. Thank you ever so much for coming on This Is MediaCity.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching This Is MediaCity, which is a 39 Pictures production on behalf of MediaCity and in association with the University of Salford, and all the team behind the camera putting it all together are graduates and undergraduates from the university. So please remember to like, subscribe and comment, and we will see you next week. The production team are Meg Bond, Tegan Easton, Akila Hewitt and James Young.